reflection I will be sharing is from the point of communication and social interaction, which has been an integral part of the GSD, as we all know. So experiences in studios, seminars, classes, and beyond consist of not only the text, the content of what we present and represent, but also the social context that frames the project within the larger collective discourse. And the challenge of the past year, as we all know, has been how we as a community create this vibrant social intellectual environment of design discourse in the virtual format. From summer 2020, this has been the critical question we've been grappling with. And in our efforts to transition to virtual by design, as Ian mentioned, ITF works have focused on augmenting the social experience to complement the changed practices of pedagogy and technology in the virtual format. So there are many dimensions to social interactions at the GSD: informal, messy, in the process interaction, to formal communications of design reviews and studio critiques, to expanded field of public engagement. So firstly, the most inner and intimate dimension we all know is the messy, informal communication that happens in the trays and the studios and during the design process, in the lobby and corridors, and at other places and times when we least expect it. These chance encounters allow us to make unforeseen connections in the design process. Ian, next slide, please. So to facilitate these cross-boundary learning, ITF ideated a prototype of what is now GSD Now and supported its development thanks to Chad in the audience and Ken and the other members of the communications office. The idea for GSD Now is that we needed a new home base for this new virtual semesters, a new space intended to show and provide access to the full breadth of activities happening across the school at any given time, course and studio activities, events, and public programs, alongside other kinds of activities open to the general GSD audience. Next. Moreover, we witnessed a surge of creative initiatives taken up by students, faculty, and staff members to collectively reimagine the virtual GSD experience. This includes student forums Terrace, GSD Cafe, VR Virtual Gund, and Fabrication Labs Virtual Gund, as pictured in the slide here. This communal yearning for a social environment made us realize we have an incredibly robust, agile, and dynamic grassroots culture where we make and develop projects to address collective pain points. Secondly, in the domain of formal design communication, such as studio reviews, we witnessed creative adaptation of presentation formats across studios and seminars. New modes of presentation, representation, and exhibition emerged, utilizing novel media and platforms such as 3D viewers, websites, AR, VR, videos, and other creative adaptation of existing platforms to augment the virtual experience of formal design communication. To facilitate exchanges and participation across these formal gatherings, ITF launched weekly newsletters to communicate to our community the timely topics on pedagogy and virtual teaching and learning. Through internal goings-on in the ITF newsletter, we hoped to lay the groundwork to enable cross-disciplinary conversations to take place. Lastly, our design communication went beyond the bounds of the Gund Hall. The exhibitions team put forward a series of civic art projected outside the Gund Hall to invite the public into our design culture. More web publications and digital formats emerged to open up the design practices of the GSD to the wider world, not only at the institutional level, but also at the level of individual classes, studios, and student groups. The virtual format enables not only the external critics afar to contribute their insights to studio reviews happening virtually, but also our community members, friends, families, and colleagues to join, for example, thesis reviews and other GSD events across geographies and time zones. This, however, isn't to diminish the gravity of the tolls that this year has taken on a lot of the members of our community. Undoubtedly, the changed practices of communications have put us on this inflection point to reflect on our norms. And we can collectively leverage this moment to rethink our practices of design discourse. How are we practicing our collective conversations about design? There are not only written rules, but also the unspoken practice norms in the design academia. In this light, questions to take with us forward are, how do we continue to evolve our practice of communication? How do we deliberately create a social environment for more inclusive, diverse design discourse to take place? How do we as a collective become more conscious about our practice and commitment to creating these environments? How do we make sure these measures are in place? So these are the questions I ask you to keep in mind in the later discussion sessions. Thank you, and now I invite Sarah Fayed to discuss collaboration in the virtual year.